Greetings. Today I will relate the tale of the Spanish treasure ship Nuestra Senora De Atocha. Before getting started, I would encourage you to subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. If you like my videos, please hit the like button. The more likes I get, the more YouTube will show it to other people, allowing me to grow the channel. I also encourage you to visit my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. There you will find sample chapters, podcasts, a slew of contents, and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you subscribe to it and receive email notifications of when I publish a new book or other content like this video and podcast. This episode is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1665. By the early 17th century, Spanish settlement delved deep into the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America. The Bolivian city of Potsoy, Mexico City, and Lima, Peru all had larger populations than any city in their parent nation, Spain. The colonists grew coffee, sugar, tobacco, and other agricultural products for export to Europe. The silver and gold mines of the regions also supplied a vast quantity of wealth for Spain. The ship Nuestra Senora De Atocha carried a large quantity of this treasure in its holds when a hurricane sank it off the coast of Florida. By 1622, a pattern had developed to bring the riches of the New World back to the Old World. Spain sent 2 supply fleets a year to their New World colonies. During the early part of the year, these fleets left Cadiz, Spain. They followed the approximate route Columbus had established during his explorations. These fleets split up upon their arrival, some going to Veracruz, Mexico. The other half sailed to Portobello, Panama. Upon arrival, workers unloaded the much-needed supplies and unloaded the rich products of the workers of the new they loaded the rich products of the New World. The fleets, heavily laden with treasure met at Havana. From Havana, they caught the Gulf Stream along the Florida coast. They sailed northeast until they reached Spain's latitude. At that latitude, they turned east for the return trip to Spain. They traveled in fleets as to protection against pirates and privateers. The other threat to Spanish shipping was the weather. Powerful hurricanes brewed by the warm Gulf of Mexico waters sent many Spanish galleons to the bottom of the sea. Built in 1620 in Havana, the Atocha was 112 feet long with a beam of 34 feet. She drew 14 feet of water and bore a rating of 550 tons. She had the high stern castle, low waist, and high forecastle of a typical early 17th century Spanish galleon. Heavily armed, she would have sailed as the almirante or rear guard of the fleet. This was her second voyage to Spain. On this return voyage, her registered cargo included 24 tons of silver bullion in 1038 ingots, 180,000 pesos of silver coins, 582 copper ingots, 125 gold bars and discs, 350 chests of indigo, 525 bales of cotton, 20 bronze cannon, and 1,200 pounds of worked silverware. In addition to this, there was an unregistered cargo hidden aboard to avoid taxation. The fleet that contained the Atocha departed Cadiz, Spain on March the 23rd, 1622. It arrived in the Panamanian city of Portobello on May the 24th. Mule trains that originated in Lima, Peru, and Potosi brought treasures to Panama City. There it went to Portobello for loading. The vast treasure took almost 2 months to record and load. Along with the recorded treasure, much unrecorded items also went on board. Thus heavily laden, the Atocha departed Portobello on July the 22nd. The Tierra Firme fleet from Veracruz, Mexico, that accompanied it arrived in Havana in August. The fleets rendezvoused for the return voyage. The hurricane season was well underway by then. The wealth contained in the holds of the treasure ships was vast. It included silver from Peru and Mexico, gold and emeralds from Colombia, and pearls from Venezuela. The combined fleet contained 28 ships. The Atocha rode low in the water from the weight of the treasure in its holds. The fleet sailed single file with heavily armed Atocha bringing up the rear. It departed Havana on September the 4th, 1622. On September the 3rd, the hurricane struck as the fleet entered the Keys just off the Florida coast. Powerful winds drove the Atocha onto the coral reefs, piercing the wooden hull. The heavily laden ship sank in about 55 feet of water. 7 other ships of the fleet followed the Atocha to the bottom of the Caribbean. 265 of the 270 passengers and crew drowned. 5 survived by clinging to a mizzenmast, the only part to remain afloat. The ship was in shallow water. Crewmen on rescuing ships could see the masts of the ships. However, the depth was too great for any of the divers of that day to retrieve. Several divers did try to open the hatches, but they were secured. Salvage operations were successful at one of the other ships on the fleet. However, the Atocha was inaccessible. Navigators marked her location on charts and returned to Spain. Another hurricane blew into the area, scattering the wreckage. The ship became lost for many decades. Many of the other ships were located by the Spanish and, using divers, managed to salvage much of the lost treasure. Diving technology at this time consisted of a brass diving bell that the crew lowered into the deep water. A slave accompanied the bell. While underwater, the slave undertook whatever salvage operations he could manage. The owners recorded the slaves that died as business expense. The ship was eventually located with modern salvage equipment. Treasure hunter Mel Fisher recovered much of the cargo in 1985. This episode is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1664, available on the website www.mossifeetbooks.com. The book is the first book on the 6-volume timeline of United States history series. Discover some of the famous and almost forgotten historic stories of America. The story begins with the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215 and the beginnings of the concept of limited government, and ends, for now, with the beginning of the American Revolution in 1775. The articles in the book have much more detail, as well as articles not included in this podcast series. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you for listening.